Sonic female. Sonic. Sonic female. Sonic. Sonic. Sonic female. You're listening to Sonic Female Podcast with Justine Blazer. In studio today, we have a pop singer and songwriter originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, now resides in Nashville, Tennessee. You've seen her on The Voice and many other great things. Katie Colosimo. We're going to talk to her in just a minute, but first we're going to kick off the episode with her latest single, Together. Katie Colosimo.
Used to get a buzz from kissing you. Used to hold you tight like super glue. Was electric in my heart. Love sick from the start. Now I don't know what to do with all these feelings that I don't have anymore. Conversation with you is such a bore. It's like talking to a wall. No, you ain't any fun at all. Now I don't know what to do with all these feelings. I'll just throw them in a box with our love letters, and I'll touch some of the dots. It won't get any better, cause we are too gone for either of us to hold on. Where did we go wrong? How are you so cold? How am I the only one reacting to the fact we don't belong together? The only one reacting to the fact we don't belong. Tell me why your passion's pushing up daisies. Tell me why your fire's so damn lazy. I wanna hear you scream about any damn thing. When everything's falling, you just play it safe. Don't get up on that roof with your boombox busting like an 80s kind of dude. You say that you're sorry, but we are too gone for either of us to hold on. Where did we go wrong? How are you so cold? How am I the only one reacting to the fact we don't belong together? The only one reacting to the fact we don't belong together. The only one reacting to the fact we don't belong. Isn't love though that we don't feel the same, right? Not to lose the game, but maybe we should get it back. Talk about the best times, talk about the worst. I had to keep calm, shit, I think I might curse. After all the fighting, I just really wanna know, did you ever try hard? Was it ever really worth it in the first place? That it really hurts me in the worst way. Where did we go wrong? How are you so cold? How am I the only one reacting to the fact we don't belong together? The only one reacting to the fact we don't belong together. The only one reacting to the fact we don't belong together.
Welcome to Sonic Female. I am your host, Justine Blazer. Today, we have an amazing guest, Katie Colosimo from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and she has now been in Nashville for close to 7 years. You guys may have heard her on The Voice, number of shows throughout the country. She has amazing things happening right now. She has been releasing a new single every single month. I personally like LMM. We can talk about that. So how are you today, Katie?
I'm so good. Beautiful beautiful day outside. I'm excited to be talking with you. I just finished sending an email to someone for mastering another single. So I'm very excited. Everything's really busy, but good.
That's great. I mean, that's what we have to be doing as females in the music industry. So I want to bring you on because I know we've been kind of crossing paths a lot. We've been doing a few different charity shows together and, these tribute shows that we are part of. Josh Rosen does these tribute shows and it's amazing. So we've been, kind of crossing paths with that. So, and of course you play downtown like a lot of us do. So I just kind of wanted to bring you on the show today to kind of talk about your transition from being in Pittsburgh and being in a town that is predominantly country music and how you're able to kind of make your path as an independent pop artist. But you have been getting a few different things happening for you. And we kind of give us a backstory of sort of where you came from and how you wanted to make the transition, because you could have been in LA, you could have been in New York, you could have been in Atlanta. Why did you choose Nashville? Can you talk about that as your journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Pittsburgh and there is a music scene there, but it's very heavy, like indie rock scene. So I did start off my personal musical journey with a garage band in Pittsburgh, and we were called Something Tasty, which, nice little garage band name. But we did a lot of, I guess, fusion type music. You know, the drummer really liked my brother. He really liked Dave Matthews. And then, the bassist was really into reggae. And then the pianist loved jazz. And I loved pop always.
Who were some of your favorite artists growing up?
Oh, definitely. Okay, let's see. That's always a hard one because my dad always listened to Seal and Paul McCartney.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
And my mother was always, Melissa Etheridge. And my grandmother loves Patsy Cline. So I had a lot of different influences, but me personally, like Christina Aguilera. I loved Beyonce, even though she was, in my later years. But I never really enjoyed listening to, what was on the radio until I got into closer to high school. And so I was a big Kelly Clarkson fan. I, fell into that American Idol. Like I loved watching it, and I loved being, a part of that kind of audience. And so Kelly Clarkson was a big one. Demi Lovato, early Demi Lovato. So that like hard hitting pop rock, big vocals, type of music was really got me, what really got me going. I also loved Paramore back in high school. And so that was definitely something that really jolted the start of my own music and wanting to do my own music. But I moved to Nashville for school. Originally, I was going to go to Berkeley in Boston. But I think when I came down to Belmont, it was like a last Hail Mary search for schools, and we came down in the middle of January to Nashville, and it was cold, and I think there was a hailstorm, and I did my audition and I toured the school in the rain, and I still fell in love with it, and I fell in love with Nashville. It's like I felt safe, and then you could walk a mile and you were, in the hustle and bustle of, whatever the hustle and bustle of Nashville was 7 years ago. It's changed a lot.
Oh, I know, right?
But I just fell in love with the atmosphere, and everybody was so friendly, and I felt like, me personally, I feed off of other musicians and collaborations, and I love working with other people, and I felt that the atmosphere in Nashville specifically was more conducive to that kind of environment. But, I went through going, hey, I want to be this rock artist, or hey, I want to do folk music. I think I'd love to do folk, or no, I want to be the next Adele. And, the only consistent musical genre was pop. And, pop is popular music. And it can be so many different things. Which I felt passionate about. I didn't want to be specifically in one box. So I guess that was what led me to what I'm doing now, is really just focusing on what I want and what I am now, and understanding that can change. And as a, human, we change, and so our music can evolve that way too. And I'm just giving myself a little bit of grace on that. Whereas previously I really hadn't been.
Yeah, that's a great response. parents, and those are all just incredible influences. But my question is, okay, so you've all these great influences and you come to Nashville, and what was sort of that moment for you where like, okay, I am going to start this process, and which obviously led you to The Voice. Okay, so what was your sort of stepping process from that point? You're in Belmont, you moved to Nashville to The Voice, and then we'll talk about from The Voice, to kind of now. So kind of did you audition just like a cold audition, or was it more like they found you? What was that process looking like?
So at Belmont, we had different vocal coaches, and my vocal coach was Sandra Dudley, and she is absolutely wonderful. And she got me a lot of opportunities that are still, they have the longevity. She got me a lot of opportunities with corporate gigs and things like that. But there's another teacher there, Jamie Wigington. He reached out to me. He knew one of the casting agents for The Voice. And so they were looking for a big powerhouse rock vocalist. And so I sent in a video. Actually, it was a video audition. And then they emailed me back and said, we want you to come in for a private audition. And so I went to Atlanta the summer after I graduated college. It was in June.
What year was that?
2016.
Okay.
Which is weird saying that so long ago. It doesn't feel that long ago.
No, it doesn't.
But so that was a big thing for me because I had done some previous auditions and they never really got me anywhere. I felt like, I was knocking on the right doors, but just, not the right timing. So that was a funky experience because I was auditioning for season 12, but I was auditioning for season 12 and they at that time were out in LA doing filming for season 11 because they start this process way back. It's film, it's TV and reality TV at that. Mm-hmm. But they liked me for season 11. So that experience was funny because I drove back from Atlanta after my audition to Nashville. And then the next day I flew out to LA to start the whole process.
Wow.
Which was crazy. I definitely learned about a lot about myself. And I learned a lot about other people through that process. I had been working with a corporate band and, I had other side jobs and it was called Miss Kitty's Bed and Bath is where I worked. And I'm a big, supporter of animals.
Yeah.
So, but I'd been working for them at the time. So I, in this whole process, I had a couple friends who drove me to Atlanta and drove me back. But when I was driving back, you're going through that, the excitement of you're going to go to LA and, I'm skipping audition processes. I'm going straight to the blind audition process. So that was a lot to take in. I was reading contracts. I was, trying to call my bosses and say, hey, is it okay if I'm gone for a month?
Yeah.
And some of those bosses were really fantastic and supportive and others, not so much. And, you kind of have to learn that was a life lesson. Not everybody's going to be gung ho for what you're gung ho for. And you just,
Sure.
You have to, people are, people and have to cut some people out of your life if, they're not, being supportive of what it's okay. And it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's, life choices.
Yeah. So you went out to LA mm-hmm. and you did the blind audition. Mm-hmm. And what team did you get
they
on?
didn't turn around for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Plot twist. My audition was aired. The episode was aired, but they did not turn around for me. So the judges were Adam Levine, Miley Cyrus, Alicia Keys, and Blake Shelton. I absolutely adore Miley and I adore Alicia. Adam said a few questionable things to me that they did not air, but that's okay.
What did he say? Can you say?
He said I was too emotional, and he said, "Well, it's terrible because this played a huge role in who I am today and how I see my artistry. And, I was really taken aback by it because I thought I was so ready for this. And, it was like the end all of end all. And like I had said, I've been watching American Idol since I was little. And, this type of process was, something that I had wanted to be a part of for a while.
Yeah.
And so you get there and, they prep you and you're doing wardrobe and you're talking to producers and interviews. And then you get up there on stage, in front of, live studio audience, and the judges are a lot closer to you than they let on TV.
It's about like where you and I are about? What's the difference?
Maybe like just like a little bit further. So it's weird because you're like, oh, they are really close.
So we're like, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet apart right now. We're sort of, you obviously can't see what's happening, but we're in like 2 chairs talking to each other face to face.
I'd say like 15 feet, like a basketball hoop.
Okay, that's intimidating.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I was up that morning around 4:30 a.m. and I didn't audition until 8:30 in the afternoon. And you're kind of left in the dark as to...
So you went all day just sitting there?
Just waiting.
Just
waiting. And it takes a toll on your anxiety. And, where I wasn't nervous in the morning, you have auditions and they're asking you about, your family, and they're asking you, are you nervous? And so by asking it, essentially, you're like,
encouraging
I am nervous now that you say that. But, it was one of those things, like I thought I was ready for it. And, looking back, I really wasn't. And, I remember after the show had aired and listening to myself and, hearing how they represented me, and they represented me well. Back then I remember thinking, oh, they make me seem like such an amateur. And I was, I was. And so it was a big like eye-opening thing for me. But, Adam had said I was, too emotional, and, I sounded like I was going to cry. And
what did you sing?
I sang Stone Cold, Demi Lovato.
Oh, okay.
Which essentially when you listen, people have their opinions and they're entitled to them. But you listen to Demi Lovato and she sounds like she's going to cry, Yeah. But Miley had said to him after that, she said, music is emotion. Don't listen to him. I don't know what he's talking about.
That's good that she said that,
it made me feel good. She was super sweet. And, Alicia and Blake all had very, constructive criticism, and it was fantastic. But then afterwards, they let you see your family, and I was like, oh my gosh. I just remember I saw my mom for the first time that day, and I just was, I was bawling. I was in tears, and I didn't realize how much, this whole process had affected me. You're away from your family and your friends and your whole life for a month. And you're being prepped for this one moment, and, you don't know what they're going to pick out of, however many hours of filming that they have of you to air. But 2 weeks later, after I'd gotten back to Nashville, the whole process was done with. They called me, the producer I had been working with, and they took such good care of me out there, and I have nothing bad to say about the process. They have jobs, they do what they have to do, but they called me, said, we really loved working with you. We loved your family. We would love for you to get as much exposure out of this experience as possible. And so they came and filmed in Nashville at my job, Miss Kitty's Bed and Bath, and they filmed me there. I think they might have just wanted to have the puppies and the cats on film, which is totally fine with me because they're pretty wonderful.
People love puppies and kitties.
Exactly. But that was also shown on my episode
that's cool that they did that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was heartbroken afterwards, and I didn't necessarily want people to know that. I think I got a little jaded afterwards. I still can't watch The Voice.
Yeah, it's a process. It takes a lot out of you, and I know exactly what you mean by that, because your whole life and your whole career is kind of being put on under a microscope for the whole world to see it forever. So what would you take away from the whole experience? I know that you said that you learned a lot about yourself, and how has that helped you sort of transition into this moment where you're at right now, which I think you're doing wonderful things. I see your stuff on social media and that kind of thing. And it has led you to a few different deals that you just signed. So sort of from that point, 2016 to sort of now, what was the journey and how did you get to this point?
So after The Voice, I was kind of in a down period of my life.
Did you get depressed, or were you?
As far as music goes, I think I got a little lost. I thought that, this was my direction, and this was gonna help me get closer to where I wanted to be, which at that point, I don't think I really knew where I wanted to be. I was hoping it would show me, and essentially I was hoping that the process would show me where I wanted to go, which isn't necessarily what that process is for. They want people who have a story, and they want to be able to capitalize on some things to a certain extent, and that's what I'm putting air quotes in right now, but that you can't see them. That's what sells, I guess.
Sure.
So for me, I think I took away from the process that, I had a lot more life to continue to live. And I had, experiences that might be huge to me right now. I needed to be more in touch with who I was as a person, who I was as an artist. And being a little lost is okay. And so through a lot of that self-questioning, I realized, Miss Kitty's wasn't necessarily what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be doing more music. I wanted to hit it hard and really, if I was amateur, if I didn't have the experience, I wanted to make sure I had the experience. So I really, I've been asked by the Music City Sound, which is a corporate band I still work with, and I absolutely love them. They kind of took me on and mentored me and gave me a lot of work, and I have been singing with them for a while, but by doing shows with them every weekend, I was able to meet people who wanted me to succeed, and I was able to meet people who said, hey, are you free to gig at Tin Roof downtown or bars? So I met different people through that one corporate band that helped me get more experience musically outside of that. And now I feel like I have more experience doing those things. And then I also realized, I want to be able to do music full time no matter what. And so I stopped and I said, and you know what, like I had done Miss Kitty's, and then I worked as a personal assistant for Lisa Erst Palmer. She's an executive producer she was on Oprah and Dr. Phil, and she did Pickler and Ben here in Nashville. But I worked with her, and I worked with her puppy dogs. And I have nothing bad to say about them. I absolutely love them. But, I was, holding on to something. In order to do music full time, I have to do music full time. I have to be able to risk some of that. And so I quit everything else that I was doing, and I said, I'm going to keep corporate gigs, and I'm going to keep doing Tin Roof Broadway. I do that downtown 3 times a week pretty regularly. And I'm going to continue to develop myself as an artist and try to communicate as best I can who I am to the world. And I guess that was my process from The Voice until now, is just the more experience and that I have on stage, the stronger I feel vocally, and then the stronger I feel vocally, the more I learn about myself and the kind of artist I am, and what I resonate the most with. Singing covers definitely is a beautiful thing, because the more you sing, the more you figure out what you like,
build up your chops. You get the reaction from the crowd.
And I definitely now I'm more of a performer. I can command a crowd. I know how to talk to people, and that's essentially what you're doing. You're connecting with people when you're on stage, and so important to know your audience. And so by doing Tin Roof, by doing corporate gigs, and being in different performing situations, has helped me so much develop as a performer and as a person.
Okay, so that's great. So my question now is, hearing you speak about this, if you had the opportunity to do that again now, today, after all of that experience, do you think, A, you would? And if you did, do you think the outcome would have been different?
I think I would. I would for sure. I never turned down an opportunity, and an opportunity is an opportunity. I think that definitely would. I think I know myself more now than I ever have. And, you know, that's all I can give. You never really know when your time's going to be.
Right.
You know, you just have to make sure you're preparing yourself.
Always be prepared. Yeah.
For whatever it is that might come your way.
Yep.
And so I definitely think I would. I don't necessarily know if the outcome would be any different, but I definitely know that if it was the same, it wouldn't affect me the same way.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, do you think these shows really have this impact on people's career, or do you think it's just this sort of temporary entertainment value for, you know, the show's purposes? I mean, do you think I really can't name, you know, some of the winners that are doing, you know, these huge things right now? I think it's kind of what you create as an artist and how able you're to adapt to whatever outcome it could, you know, because there's been winners that I'm not really sure what they're doing now. And then there's been people like yourself who have just been kind of on it and featured on a couple episodes and then doing their thing. So kind of like touch on that a little bit, your opinion on that.
I definitely think that those people who are winners, you can either, I think it just depends. I agree with you. It depends on how determined you are initially and, you know, what kind of support system you have created for yourself. It's meeting the right people. It's being open and being kind and, you know, having some sort of vision. A friend of mine, Chris Jameson, he was on season 7 of The Voice, and he did not, I had been singing with him since I was little. We were in the same Americana Broadway kids singing dancing group when we were younger, but he has always, you know, pushed himself to sing. He didn't go to school for that, and I think, you know, that added to his story and his experience, but he's always been kind and friendly, and music's always been something that has brought him a lot of joy in his life. Whereas, you know, for me, music has, you know, brought me a lot of self-realization, some self-doubt, and you know, as much as it has brought me joy, it's a little bit different. So I think, and for him, he's been doing a lot of stuff in Pittsburgh with his career. He's now very much so like an Instagram figure. So I think it just depends on what you make of it. I know Cassidy Pope won one year.
Yeah, so Raylan is doing some good stuff.
And I think a lot of that has to do maybe with the kind of music. I think Nashville has done a really great job of really capturing those artists and capitalizing on it and creating a career out of them, which, you know, they're doing country pop music, you know, so I think it's difficult maybe for those who aren't doing that kind of thing.
Right. So do you ever feel like, oh man, if I just would have done more country, or, you know,
all the time.
How are you able to stay motivated in a country town and staying true to your pop music, which I think is great? Who is your team? Who are you working with musically? Are you writing these songs?
Last year, I kind of took it upon myself. You know, I wasn't necessarily sure what my plan was going to be, but I wanted to focus on the song. I did a writer's retreat with Judy Stakey, and I met Milo, Mylo, and he played a big part in my musical journey as a writer. But we did a retreat in Pigeon Forge a couple years ago, and it really changed my perspective, you know. And talking to Judy also changed my perspective as well. You know, everybody has, you know, their type of music, but it all starts with a song is her big mantra. It starts with a song, and it really does. You know, you have to be passionate about the song, the lyrics, what you're singing, and then it just kind of morphs and molds from there. And so I've worked with a bunch of different people. Again, like I said, I love to collaborate. I think it's important to help capture people's talents and use them for not use people, but, you know, work with people. And so spending time with other people, and in turn them spending time with you, I just think it's important. It's important to connect with people, especially today. But so I've worked with Milo on a few songs. I've worked with different producers. My main two guys that I've been working with now, and when I say producers, I mean, I I definitely take the reins on a lot of things. I know more what I want than I ever have. So, but I enjoy working with these guys because I really feel like they're listening to me.
They get it.
And they
That's
they're
really
taking
important.
my vision into account for sure. But Sam Martinez, he produced LML and my new one coming out after this month. But Chris Job, I've worked with as well. He's done Feel This and General. And then with that team, Ben Benicos has come along and done some piano parts. And my next single is Together. My friend Milo kind of presented to me. He felt it was very similar to, what I was going through at the time, which was a bad breakup. And it basically is one of my favorite singles so far, just because I feel like I personally relate to it so much and it's so much fun to sing. But it's about, being in a relationship that isn't right for you, and that person, when it finally does end, that person not necessarily giving two craps about you and, not showing any emotion. It's like, did we even date for 3 years? But that song, that's basically what it's about. But I took the reins on it, and I did change some of the lyrics, but Sam Martinez produced it. And so LML,
what's that stand for? Like
love me love.
Love me love. That's it. Love me love.
Yes. So,
that's a great song.
Thank you. So LML I wrote with Sam Martinez and Milo.
Well, let's play it right now. This is LMM, Katie Colosimo.
Like a needle in a haystack, like a record in the way back, like a song that I just can't find. I hum it all the time, and everybody says I'll find it. I just gotta trust the timing, and then so lovely wife me up in a hurry, and I just can't take it, waiting for you here in my room where I'm praying for you. Hope you come and take it for yourself. 'Cause love me, love. Do what you want. I'll be so good to you. What's the likelihood that you do what you should? 'Cause love me, love. 'Cause love me, love. Baby, I got a diploma in conversation and mimosas. Well, maybe if the stars align, then baby, I could blow your mind. When something is summing up so good, then shut up and tell me that you would. You would. 'Cause love me, love. Do what you want. I'll be so good to you. What's the likelihood that you do what you should? 'Cause love. 'Cause love. Do you want someone to love you? Because I wanna love you. Do you want someone to love you? Because I wanna love you. 'Cause love me, love. Do what you want. What's the likelihood that you do it? 'Cause love me, love.
It's a great song. I love it. I love it. So poppy.
Yes, super poppy. I love it.
And after that one, you did your next single was
Feel This.
Feel This. And I remember seeing the video for that. Yes. You were like, how did you get Broadway completely? If you guys watch this video, watch the video, and it's almost like a movie set, and it looks like the whole streets, roped off. And that was one of my questions. Like, that never happens. How did you make that work?
So one of the perks of singing downtown from my shift is 10:30 to 2:30 in the morning is knowing that it's going to be completely empty at 2:30 in the morning. So we went down, and thankfully it had rained because I had talked to my videographer.
It looked great.
And he said, that's a big thing. They love, the wet pavement, like the reflection, and I had no idea that was a big thing. He said, you're lucky that it rained and it looks so good. And but we went down.
What day was that? Was it like a weekday?
I think it was a Monday night at 3 a.m, and there was no one out.
What month was this?
Oh, when did we film this? I want to say January, February.
Yeah. Makes sense.
At some point.
Yeah. If you guys ever go to Nashville at that time, it's kind of our dead time right after the holidays. Yep. All the musicians sort of freak out because there's not a lot of traffic. So that makes sense then. Okay.
Yeah. But it was a good time.
Yeah. So I love the way that he sort of filmed it. Was it a very long shoot? Did you guys do multiple takes? How were you able to lip sync? Like, did you have it on your phone, or how did that work?
Yeah, so my friend Bailey, she also does my hair and my makeup and styling, and she's absolutely wonderful. She came out and she was holding the phone for me, and while making sure my hair was not stuck to my face or my lip gloss or whatnot, but she held the phone and I just kind of lip sync. And then I did my little brother the other day, he was like, who did your choreography for that? It was so cool. And I said, Sean, I was literally just jamming to my own song. The Chris Job, who recorded the tune, and he came up with this idea. He's like, why don't you just do something downtown? It'll be really fun. And essentially this song is about still having feelings for an ex of mine, which was also really funny because after the release, I got some messages from my old high school classmates that I have not talked to in years.
Oh,
they were like, "Is this about so-and-so? Is this
about
man?" I was like, I really thought this was going to go everywhere everybody's heads, and it did not. But basically, the whole concept of the music video was, after Tin Roof, when I sang, I walk back to my car and it's just silence. I don't want to hear any more loud music. It's just me and my thoughts. And that's kind of when I think about this person. And so we had the idea, I start, if you notice, the beginning of the video, I start at Tin Roof. And you can see it in the reflection of the water at the beginning of the video. And I start walking down the middle of the street, and I'm just jamming to the song. Like, all the feelings come back, and then you don't see my car at the end, but essentially the whole video, what I wanted it to be is, this whole song, this whole thought process is playing in my head, and I get to my car and it's done. Yeah.
That's so relatable because myself and a lot of the other artists that do the same thing. It's like, it's so true. When we have to play, it's, we have to be on, and you don't really have that transition period from driving downtown, parking your car, getting into the club, and you just got to go, and you got to go hard for 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
And then it's over. And it's just this euphoric high, and you have all the endorphins and adrenaline running, and then it's over. If you're not an artist, it may not resonate with you, but if you are an artist or musician, singer, anything to that effect, there is a very, very polarizing effect happening on a daily basis. Especially when you work downtown. Yeah. So that's a very interesting perspective, and I never would have really guessed that. I would have been like, oh, she's just kind of being cool, swagger, walking down the street. But now that I hear this, and the listeners can be sort of watching this video with sort of a new perspective on that. So that's really interesting. Are you planning on doing more music videos for your other songs? Or are you just trying to do something different for each single? I know your first one was a lyric video, second one was a music video. general, you have
just some behind the scenes
stuff, and your current single Together. Are you? Is there something you're releasing for that?
Yeah, so I'm going to be releasing a music video for Together. I'm super excited about this one. I'm working with Troy Jackson and Jessica Amerson and Bailey, again, with hair and makeup and things like that. But you know what? I realized I'm not, aside from Feel This, I don't do many shoots that are outside. I love the look of a clean studio and just being in front of a color. And so this music video is... it's going to be me and Chris Simmons, who I'm good friends with from college, but he's beautiful Black man, absolutely gorgeous. And we kind of just want to play off, we're playing off our skin tones, but also just the idea that he's almost mannequin-like, not moving throughout the whole video. And me, I'm going around him in different positions and not getting any emotion from him, which is similar to the message of the song, but we wanted to do it in a cool way, which you will see.
I love that.
Slightly different, but it's fun.
I love that. And I love the fact that you see the importance of creating visual aids for your songs. I produce a lot of artists, and a big thing I have to emphasize is we put all this time into writing, developing, producing these tracks, and some of them have gone off and done videos, and it's been amazing. And it's like, yes, some they sort of just skip over that part. And so I see that you kind of see the importance of that. What would be sort of your advice to, someone who's trying to do this on their own, create budgets for themselves, and the importance of not just one music video, but I think a series, because it creates this sort of timeline, this dialogue, and it helps get your fans to sort of wrap around, because they're going to imagine one thing in their head, but then you simply say, no, this was the vision of this song. Kind of what would you sort of say to someone that's sort of direction?
I definitely think that it's important to think about it. There's so many different ways to approach it. If you have to really sit down and realistically look at what kind of budget you have, but there's ways to work with every single kind of budget. And for me, when I work with friends and I work with producers and engineers and videographers and photographers and makeup artists and web designers, there's so many people that I want to work with because I value their talent. You never want them to feel like they're being slighted in any monetary way.
Right.
And so being able to really be honest about that with not only yourself, but those other people, you kind of find your team, those people who believe in your vision and who are willing to work with you, maybe for a little bit less, and being able to understand that. But I think it's important to, say, I want music videos for X, Y, and Z, or maybe starting off, we'll just do behind the scene clips, or we'll do an acoustic video to promote.
Or a lyric video or something like that.
But it's so important just to sit down and think about it and create a plan for yourself.
It's so true.
And just make sure you're sticking to that. But
yeah. What are ways that do you believe in doing the crowd funding thing, or maybe try to get someone to sort of sponsor you, or what are some recommendations to artists that may be hearing this right now from you, that you have amazing videos, and what would be sort of a direction that they could take?
Yeah. So I think there's no shame in asking somebody for help, asking for people's help, for people who already support you too. I have a weird pride issue complex, I guess. And
most of us do.
I haven't wanted to ask for help. And so for me, it was a lot about, creating budgets that would allow me to still do what I wanted. And I was still, working downtown and saving as much as I could. But I don't think there's any shame in doing crowdfunding. I know a bunch of people who have had really great success. But majority of those people work really, really hard behind the scenes. You see it once on Facebook, but these people every single day, they're messaging 20 people, 30 people a day to help them. Which is, it's about getting the message out and connecting with people, obviously you don't want to badger people, but if you really believe that you need that help and that people will help you, and you believe that in what you have to give, which you should, because you're wonderful and everything is, then I don't think there's any shame in asking for help that way.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Have a vision first, and be able to say, hey, your money, your help is going towards this. That is definitely helpful. But
yeah, that's interesting because, you're putting out these singles every month, and, I think that's great. I think that's a great way to go about it. There are still, people doing the artist thing, or the album thing rather. There's also people still doing like an EP thing. So 5, 10, 15 years ago, it was one way, and you do an album, and every 2 years put an album out. That was the way it was done. Now with social media, and I think it's more relevant than ever because, us as a society, we don't have the attention that we used to have. And I think the more you can continue to just, kind of trickle out content, it's going to keep your audience more in tune to what you're trying to do. And there's a couple artists I work with, and what they did was they did an album, but then they put out a single every month, kind of what you're doing. The album's already out, but what they're doing is they're featuring one song out every month with a video or a lyric video. So, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can sort of go about it, but you're doing a straight one single a month, and that has led you to a lot of attention. You just signed a sync licensing deal.
Yes.
Tell me about how did that result?
So, A&R Factory, which is a A&R website, they work with a lot of independent artists, but they are over in the UK. I actually found them online, and I've been doing my own PR, so reaching out to as many people as I can.
I think that's smart because PR is so expensive.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
Maybe it'll be in the budget for next year. But I had reached out to them, and they are absolutely wonderful. They listen to your tune. They write an amazing review, and they feature it on their website. And then there was Rebel America Incorporated. They reached out to me. They are an independent sync licensing agency in Houston. They saw my song LML on A&R Factory, and they reached out to me because they're looking for pop musicians for their roster.
Yeah, that's great.
And so it was awesome to, get that feedback.
Sure.
And a lot of that, they probably, they loved the track, and Sam Martinez was on that, and it there's a reason I put it out first. It's one of my favorite tunes, and it gets you moving, and it's an anthem for those who, recognize that they're awesome, and, they just want to be loved for it. Everybody wants to be loved for it.
Yeah, it is. If you guys hear the track, it's very, I feel like it competes with all of like what you would hear on pop radio right now. It's kind of has that, Dua Lipa or Demi Lovato, Julia Michaels, that kind of had that sound to it as well, which the females in the pop world are killing it, by the way.
Yes, they are.
Take note, everybody. I think females in country are doing great. Like you have Kelsey, you have Marin, you have, of course, Carrie Underwood and Miranda Lambert. But then that's it. So I would like to see more, this female movement happening. It's definitely happening in the pop world, because you got like Ariana Grande, and the list goes on of that. So I think you're in a really good place, and I think that if you could get some placements like that, I think it's just going to continue to open more doors up for you, because you do have first of all, if you guys haven't seen Katie sing live, you need to do that, because you're one of like the best singers I've seen in this town.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Your music is great too, but your voice, it sounds great. But like I'm a producer, I know the tricks that you can make anyone sound good, but like you really can sing super good. And so are you going to have some songs coming up that are going to be like these big belt powerhouse, songs that just really showcase what you can do vocally?
That is a big question. I haven't necessarily written the right song for that, and I guess I'm waiting for the right song, right
time, right song.
Yeah. And I've thought about doing some covers, releasing that kind of thing, which I'm definitely not opposed to it. I do a lot of see, that's a request we get a ton. I
bet you could sing that awesome.
Oh, I mean there's definitely love me a ballad. I do. I really do. So there probably will be something like that coming up.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I love the acoustic aspect of songs. So my goal is also to be putting out acoustic versions of these songs.
It's a great idea.
Along with them. I was going to, I think, as much as I have things planned out, I'm allowing myself a little bit of grace in the process.
And I think that's the beauty of doing it the way you're doing it, is because if you're seeing something that's not quite going the way you want to, you can just go, without even people realizing that you're making these adjustments as you go along. As any successful business needs to be doing, you need to be constantly monitored. It's just like always.
Okay, what are people resonating with? What do I need to be doing more of?
Exactly.
And, as much as I want to have, I started this out, I said, okay, I'm going to have 4 or 5 songs already recorded by the time I start this, and allow myself a little bit of leeway to consider what people are really resonating with. And, because I want to, my mind has never been business oriented. I've always resonated more with the creative side of things, and I love taking the reins in the studio, and I love taking the reins in a video shoot and photo shoot and having ideas and making them come to fruition. But the idea of promotion and marketing and trying to figure out what people want, what people don't really resonate with, that's always been a big fear of mine going into this. It's like, am I going to be able to promote this the way I want to? And so I was trying to be smart about it, and I'll release these and I'll have plans, but I'm going to allow myself to be able to really analyze things and see, maybe I'll release this now because they seem to be really liking that or wanting that. But I'm allowing myself room to do that, but I also want to be able to do things that I want and that I connect with.
Enjoying the process and then learning through that. Yeah. And that's part of the factors that help you feel more authentic as a person, as an artist, and of course, as a business person, is to be able to embrace that and knowing that if it is successful, those decisions that you made is because of the decisions that you made. If it's a failure, then that's something that you need to say, okay, I made that decision. I'm making note of that, and I'm going to correct that for the next go around. Yeah. And, people can have small failures almost on a daily basis. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that you have this opportunity to make things that much better for the next time. And
so many things to learn. You can never stop learning.
Oh, absolutely. So that's really an important thing. As with every show that we have on Sunday Female, we talk about something that is more human, relatable. We volunteer for a nonprofit company called Timothy's Gift, where you guys go in and give concerts in service to inmates of prisons in Ohio, Florida, Arkansas. That is something that you're passionate about. How did you even get involved in something like that? Which I feel like I commend you for that. That's an amazing platform. Can you tell me how you got involved in that?
So I got involved with Timothy's Gift a couple years ago. My teacher, actually, Sandra Dudley, at Belmont, that I had been taking lessons from, one of her previous students, Matt Hodges, had reached out to her regarding this opportunity in this charity, and she recommended a few people, and I was one of the people, and he reached out to me, and over the phone, he tried to explain the best he could, what this was all about, and they can't pay a ton, but they want to provide a special experience for people who don't get that often. And so I was 100% on board. I'm very into when I was in college, I was in a sorority and we volunteered a lot. And I felt like since college, I hadn't had an opportunity to really volunteer. And so initially it was, filling that void for me. I wanted to be able to volunteer, and I wanted to, it makes you feel good to do that. But what I learned going into these prisons and spending time with inmates, and they're just people. They're people, and the biggest thing that you can give them, I could have very well said, I can't make it this time. I've gone 4 times in the past 2 years. They do it 2 to 3 times a year. I could very well have just said, I'll donate money, but, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of that. I've never once been anywhere near the judicial system or prison system. That's not something that, is important to me, but there's a difference between spending your money on somebody and spending your time with somebody. And that, kind of that's why I do it. I don't do it to say, hey, this is filling my volunteer void, or hey, this is, making me feel better. When you get in there, the effect that you have on them, people who are just at the very bottom, it's priceless. And there's no, the way you can connect with someone and give them worth, that's going to help them reform. If they have no reason to have hope, what's gonna give them that self-worth.
That's so amazing. And that's like one of those quotes that you hear. It's like someone's character is judged by the thing that you give to somebody and they can't do anything back to help you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's so relevant in this case. And that's so interesting. So are you going into these, I assume they're the women's prisons?
Women and men.
Women and men. Okay. So both. And you're singing, a concert. Are you, kind of talking to them, hanging out? I mean, what does that process look like?
So really, Timothy's Gift, we spread the word of God through music.
Oh, that's great.
So we start out with songs that they would essentially know more of. This past tour, we did an Easter tour in Ohio, and we basically started with like Sir Duke, and then we did. You start off with things like that, and like Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, and kind
of those feel good songs.
Yeah, you'd be able to build a rapport, and then you move to more inspirational music, and like I sang Anyway on this past tour, and then we kind of work in our values. In Timothy's Gift, we have these values that we try to help them to remember, and what we really want them to get from our concerts is: you are loved, you have great worth, God is with you, and you are not forgotten. And that's it. It's as simple as that. And so
amazing. I wish more artists were doing something like that. That is so great.
It's definitely, it might even affect me more than affects them. Who knows? But for sure, it's 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half of their day where they can just be a normal person in an audience enjoying music.
Are you singing with a band? Are you singing kind of acoustic?
Yes. So there's 4 vocalists in total. And then we have this past tour is the first tour we've been able to bring 2 guitars. So we had an acoustic guitar, electric guitar, drums, bass, piano, the whole shebang. We claim we are not your grandmother's prison ministry. That's the biggest, the thing we say. It's a little cheesy, but we aren't. We are able to give them that live concert experience, which is really great.
That's amazing. So when is your next one?
So the next one is in Florida, which is the first time I've been to Florida.
What?
On a Timothy's Gift tour.
Okay,
She's like, excuse me? No, I've been to Florida. But it's the first time I'll be going into the Florida prison system, which is where it all started with Timothy's Gift. And so that'll be the Christmas tour.
That's great. I love that. You just being able to sing Christmas songs with them and share the word of God. And I love that so much. I really do. It's 'cause we do lose sight of that sometimes, especially in this sort of, pop world or country world or the society that we are in right now. It just happens, we do lose sight of that, including myself, which is all something that, if you're a believer, you have to continue to work on. So what is the next sort of chapter for you? I know we're getting to the end of this episode, but, so what is the next thing that you want to focus on? What's the next thing that, the fans, or maybe there's new people that are listening today that are going to just start, popping onto your music.
Yeah.
What's the next thing?
So the next thing for me is, honestly, I want to finish out this year strong with my single releases. I would love to get a small acoustic tour going, whether, I need to sit down and kind of figure out, where specifically I would have the most fans and all the logistics there. But I want to be able to share my music live with people, because that initially is where I started out. I want to be on stage. I want to be able to connect with people face to face. And then I'm also thinking about making some trips to LA here in the next couple months, just to see if I like it. Maybe go to New York, see if I like it too. Nashville has been really great to me. So I don't see myself moving, but I'm always up for not keeping myself in a box.
Yep.
So
it's you gotta be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's my motto.
Yes. So that's my next thing to tackle after I release these singles is really, really trying to promote them. And so whether I'm releasing new music while I'm touring, I think it'll be nice for me to at least have this music out before I tour so that I can have something to give to people so that they can refer to it. So that's the plan.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. We'll be definitely following all of your success. Awesome. So, well, thank you so much. You guys can check out her website and her Facebook and her Instagram and her YouTube and everything else. What are all your social medias?
So everything is KTC Music. So ktcmusic.com is my website. Instagram /KTC Music. My Facebook is actually Katie Colosimo Music because KTC Music was already taken.
Who do I got to beat up? No.
Right, exactly. That's what I said. No, just kidding. And then my YouTube, you can just look me up, Katie Colosimo.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Katie, for being on today's show. That does it for us for Sonic Female. We're going to close out the show with Katie's single, The General. I'm Justine Blazer. Until next time, have a great day.
You've been talking, I've been listening. All your words are so addicting. Slow it down, speed up. I can see you're gifted, like making love. No description. Don't stay so close to me, yeah. If you do, I can barely breathe. And you know what you do to me, yeah. You know what you could be. You could be my every move, and you could be my DJ. Walking down the avenue, riding down the freeway. Be my general, and I could be your right hand. And no one's gonna love you, baby, better than I can, yeah. You could be my, you could be my high. You could be my, you could be my high. Don't stay so close to me, yeah. If you do, I can barely breathe. And you know what you do to me, yeah. You know what you could be. We've been laughing, now we've been kissing, and all our fears, they went missing. Slow it down, speed up, I can feel your rhythm. Could be too much, baby, keep your distance. Don't stay so close to me, yeah. If you do, I can barely breathe. And you know what you do to me, yeah. You know what you could be. You could be my every move, and you could be my DJ. Walking down the avenue, riding down the freeway. Be my general, and I could be your right hand. And no one's gonna love you, baby, better than I can, yeah. You could be my, you could be my high. You could be my, you could be my high. Don't stay so close to me, yeah. If you do, I can barely breathe. And you know what you do to me, yeah. You know what you could be. And I believe in the power of a soulmate. Helpless romantic, but again, what can I say? I haven't made up my mind since 2009. So baby, at the same time, don't stay so close to me. If you do, I might never leave. You know what you do to me. You know what you could be. Be my friend, and you could be my DJ. Walking down the avenue, riding down the freeway. Be my general, and I could be your right hand. And no one's gonna love you, baby, better than I can, yeah.